There's a reason I can sing. There's a reason for this life inside me. One name above all names. Jesus, yes, it's Jesus.
You called me from the grave by name. You called me out of all my shame. I see the old has passed away, the new has come. Now I have resurrection power, living on the inside, Jesus. You have given us freedom, no longer bound by sin and darkness, living in the light of your goodness. You have given us freedom. I'm dressed in your royalty. Your Holy Spirit lives in me. I see my past has been redeemed. The new has come. Now I have resurrection power, living on the inside, Jesus. You have given us freedom, no longer bound by sin and darkness, living in the light of your goodness. You have given us freedom, freedom. You have given us freedom. You have given us freedom. My chains are gone. Chains are gone. Freedom. You have given us freedom. You have given us freedom. Hallelujah. Freedom. You have given us freedom. You have given us freedom. My chains are gone. Chains are gone. Freedom. You have given us freedom. You have given us freedom. Hallelujah. I have resurrection power, living on the inside, Jesus. You have given us freedom, no longer bound by sin and darkness, living in the light of your goodness. You have given us freedom. I have resurrection power, living on the inside.
You called me from the grave by name. You called me out of all my shame. I see the old has passed away, the new has come. Now I have resurrection power, living on the inside, Jesus. You have given us freedom, no longer bound by sin and darkness, living in the light of your goodness. You have given us freedom. I'm dressed in your royalty. Your Holy Spirit lives in me. I see my past has been redeemed. The new has come. Now I have resurrection power, living on the inside, Jesus. You have given us freedom, no longer bound by sin and darkness, living in the light of your goodness. You have given us freedom. 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 Chains are gone. Freedom. 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 Hallelujah. Freedom. 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 Chains are gone. Freedom. 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 Hallelujah. I have resurrection power living on the inside, Jesus. You have given us freedom. No longer bound by sin and darkness, living in the light of your goodness. You have given us freedom. I have resurrection power living on the inside.
All right, everybody. Everybody's hopefully a little bit toasty and a little bit warm here. All right, so let's pick up on our last session here for this session. All right, so we have actually, we've covered a lot, you guys, when I think about it in a short amount of time. And so the first workshop that we did, of course, back in May, so we talked about, the science of music and how God created music as a way for us to express emotion. And then we really got into the physiology and talking about all the different type of things that go on inside the brain and how, God created music in such a way that when it goes into the brain and how the body responds. And we talked about, all the neurotransmitters that are actually released, the dopamine, the serotonin. And that was pretty much just to really give us an appreciation of what God has done with music for us. And actually, I'm going to say created music for us. And, we just continue to find more in my world of, in the psychology and neuroscience. We're just finding out that the power of music and how strong it is in working with, clients, stroke victims, Alzheimer's, dementia. And it's just so interesting how music just lights up when you're watching the scans and things on the brain and what it actually does in the brain. And so in our first workshop, that was kind of the focus there to help us to appreciate, just from a science perspective, a neurological perspective, how God has created music for us. Then in our second workshop, we were like, okay, but we got to work on being skillful here. And so we're trying to bring excellence to the table. And so remember, we kind of started out talking about when we're going to be skillful, it's like, would you want someone who hasn't prepared to administer to you? So would you want a doctor who hadn't studied to operate on you or to give you surgery, right? So just depending on maybe what you're having taken out, from a splinter to your heart or something like that, it might make a difference. And so the same thing is when we're coming here and we're assembling, do we want to, of course, give our best, offer our best? And so how do we do that? We become skillful. So I'm hoping that, by time now these things are starting to settle in a little bit more. And when you're on your way here in the morning, you got the songs going on in the background in the car through your phone and stuff, just really preparing, getting your heart and mind here. I always say if you can start Friday night and just start singing the songs, or even better, just have them playing whatever during the week, even in the background, because your brain is still picking up those different type of things. So it's just like, I guess what it really is, it's just always being prepared, right? You're in a state of constant, if you want to say, preparation, right? And so just think about that, because God always lives in the now. God is always in the now. And so just like us, God is always with us. And so if that's the case, then our lives harmonizing with Him should always be just a current and dynamic thing. We talked a little bit about, breath control and projection, right? And so, for hitting those high notes, and we talked about doing your dog pants, because remember, you're breathing with the diaphragm, right? And so we did our dog pants so we could realize that when we're singing, when we're projecting, that our air is taken in here and it's coming from here and coming up through our vocal cords. So that way we're not straining our vocal cords so much, right? And so they have an opportunity, to relax. And so being skillful, we looked at kind of the story of Moses, and God asked him, what's in your hand? And it was a staff. And he's like, okay, that's what we're going to use. And so for us, what do we have? Well, you have your voice, right? And so that's the instrument that we have an opportunity that we've been blessed to use. And if you really want to appreciate being able to sing, worship with a deaf congregation, and I promise you it will change. It will change you. You will really be appreciative for being able to actually use your voice, this vocal cord. Now they used theirs, which was hands, right? And they were just as happy using the hand signals and stuff like that. But you're blessed when you have an opportunity to be able to use the voice. All right, so the past few days we've been talking about part 3, which is now the heart of worship. So we've been bringing this all together. And so in the past few days, we've been working on what's known as the occipital lobe. So remember, when you hear music, when you sing music, 3 of your lobes of your brain come into activation, right? So now if you want your whole brain to be engaged, whole heart, there's one more thing that you have to do, and you have to visualize, right? And so we've been working on the story of the song when you're singing it, creating that story. And that actually helps us to remember it. And that's why one of the times when you hear an old piece and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that from whatever, blah, 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 because that's how music works. It goes into that occipital, and that's what we're trying to activate, is that occipital. So we started out talking just a little bit about the whole idea of our heart being filled with praise and filling it up with praise. And so I gave you a few things to think about, and this was one, that it's not enough to love to sing, right? So okay, we love to sing. You must want to love to worship, because that's what it's about. You have to love to worship. Now, worship just isn't Sunday at this time, right? Worship is your whole life. And so you have to love to worship God wherever you are, whatever circumstance. When you're down, when you're up, when you're happy, when you're sad, there has to be that love that I want to worship. And when we bring that part of our heart to our singing, it really elevates and it changes it. Now, we shared this quote, which I think is a great quote. Worship is love responding to love. And so I want you to think about that even today when you're worshiping, right? Worship is love. It's responding to love. And so all the love that God has given you, he's giving you an avenue to just respond to that love. And worship is one of those things. And so that's why, you can sing and there's a smile on your face because your love is responding to the love that has been given to you. That's why when you sing the song and the words make you lament, you're lamenting because you're thinking about, wow, the love that was given for me and the price that was paid for me. And you know what? I want to give more in my life. And so when we bring all these things together, it elevates our worship and it becomes heart worship, and that's what we wanted. So then we talked about worshiping, of course, with our whole heart. If it's going to be praise-filled, we have to give them all, and so that's what we worked on. And then we worked on the idea of humility, right? And so we looked at one of the Psalms, I think it was Psalm 138, and we talked from the perspective of in our worship, if it's going to be heart worship, it has to be worship that has humility in it, okay? And so really realizing, of course, that God is, and we saw the different names, Creator, Redeemer, Savior, Shepherd, all these things in our relationship. And one of the things I shared with you guys was, we talked a little bit, if you weren't here, we talked about looking at things from a Hebrew perspective, from an Eastern perspective, and we just talked about in our worship, from the Greek or Western perspective, we look at things often through definitions, okay, through definitions, which is great, and that's good because you need definitions. But the problem is if I don't understand, let's just say the jargon or how you're defining terms, then it makes it difficult for me, right? So I say redemption, you're like, well, what's redemption? Or I say God, and how do you define God? Oh, he's omnipotent, omniscient. Okay, but what does omniscient mean? What does right? Whereas from the Hebrew perspective, when they would look at things, they would look at things from a picture perspective. And so well, how do you define God? And they say, well, God is a mighty tower. And so everyone be able to grab them. Oh, yeah, I know what a tower is and what it does. And right, and so then everyone would have what was known as an experience or a relationship with God. He'll hold you up on eagle's wings. So from a Hebrew perspective, that means so much more because I have the picture in my mind of God holding me up on eagle wings, or God being a mighty fortress or tower. And so from a Hebrew perspective, it was about the relationship with God and the experience with God. It's like, well, how do you define faith? Well, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Great definition, but what does it really mean, right? So from a Hebrew perspective, we would go back, oh, well, look at Abraham and look at the stories and all the stuff and how he's willing to sacrifice his son. Oh, that's what faith looks like, right? And so from a Hebrew perspective, they would use more of the pictures in order for relationship. All right, so we took a little quiz here, and so we're going to finish the rest of the quiz. If you don't have your piece of paper, that's okay. You can kind of answer these in your mind. So the first question was this: what has changed from a heart perspective since the first workshop in May 2022? Okay, so we answered that one. Has your why, so remember we talked about the why we sing, and then we talked about the motivation, right? So the why is your underlying, if you want to say, defining of why I sing. The motivation is for in the moment, each song that you sing, what's prompting you, how are you connecting with that song? We asked the question, in what ways have you been offering the best that you have in this worship area? So in the area of song, what have you been doing to actually offer your best, right? So maybe you've just been, doing some mental exercises to really prepare yourself, or maybe in the shower now you're running up and down the scales, right? So that you can warm up your vocal cords. But what are you doing to give your best? So now questions 4, 5, and 6, I want you to think about these. How have you expressed appreciation for the music God's given you via singing? I just want you to think about this. Take a little time. How have you expressed appreciation for the music that God has given you via singing? Okay. Now, if someone's willing to be vulnerable and share their answer with us, what's your answer? And it's your answer, so it's not right or wrong, it's your answer. Anybody? Yeah.
I would really like to send songs that are helpful for people, like a message to them if they're struggling, and like, oh, this will help you, just listen to that and meditate on that via text or something.
Yeah. No, that's really, I use a lot of these songs, especially when I'm struggling, when I'm dealing with stuff, because the words are, they're just so powerful for me for dealing with whatever it is that I'm dealing with, right? Thank you for sharing that. Okay, number 5, how have you used what you learned in the workshops to enrich the life of another? How have you used what you've learned in the workshops to enrich the life of another, right? You're like, wow, these are some deep questions. Yes, they are. They're hard questions, right? And that's the reason we're asking them, because that's what I want you to think about, right? And so I don't want you, it's great to learn stuff, but if you don't share it with other people, if you don't expose other people to it, to me, it's like, well, then what's the point, right? And so think about how, and if you haven't done it, I want you to think about it now going forward. How am I going to use what I've learned to enrich the life of others, right? Maybe there's someone sitting in a hospital. Maybe they've had a stroke or something. And so maybe what you've done is you've downloaded maybe some of the new songs for them on a little iPod or something, and you've given it to them for them to listen to. Okay, that's what I did, so that's what I'm saying. There's different ways that you can do this, right? And so use the creativity that God has given us. And then our final question to think about is this. What excuses have you stopped telling yourself or using about your song worship? Okay? Oh, I could never learn that song. Oh, I could never hit that note. Oh, that's just too difficult. Oh, I could never, let the music, kind of touch my heart when I'm singing. So what excuses have you stopped telling yourself or using about your song worship? Okay. So I'm going to ask you just to think about these things, moving forward if you haven't before. Pick out one. Just pick out one, and then what is the one that you want to work on? What is the one that you want to focus on? And it's interesting. So in psychology, we have what's known as the keystone effect. And the keystone effect is when you take one thing, and it could be a major or small thing, and you start working on it, what you notice is the energy that you put into changing that one thing, other things in your life actually start to change. So that's why we call it the keystone effect. So you're like, I just think I'm going to eat better. And so you start eating better, then your body starts feeling better. Before you know it, you start exercising, you start doing these things, and you're losing weight. Well, all you did was you just focused on that one thing, changing that one thing, improving that one thing. And then the cascade effects with the other things in your life. And so this life, the spiritual life that we live, follows that same principle. If you can improve that one thing, right, then you get the keystone effect because other things in your life actually start changing. All right, so for our final one, I want to ask you guys this. So, name the first song book used in the early church. Okay, Book of Psalms. Does everyone agree? You sure it wasn't Faith of Praise? Sacred Selections? Okay. Yeah, it was speaking to yourselves in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody to the Lord in your heart. So let's talk just a little bit here about psalms. And so when we think about psalms, I think of psalms as being a book in the early church that it was designed, I'm going to say by God, of course, to awaken, to express, to shape the thinking and the feeling of Jesus' followers. Okay? So I want you to think of it from that. And so when we think about the power of the Psalms, it's like, well, okay, so what are the Psalms? Now, we know the Psalms, they're a collection. So they're a collection of, you could say, lyrical poems. We usually find them in the Old Testament. And when we think of them, they weren't just written during one period of time. And so the Psalms are collected over thousands of years. And so that's why when you read the Psalms, you've got all these different perspectives from different multiple authors. And so you'll read one Psalm, Psalm 90, and Psalm 90 was actually written by Moses. Okay? And so you have this collection of these authors and their relationship and how they're expressing it to God. So, Lord, you have been our dwelling place all generations before the mountains are born, or you gave birth to the earth, even from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. And so we have these different psalms there. I think we attribute about 73 to David. Asaph is about 12, Solomon maybe 1 or 2, and then the other ones, we can't find information, or it doesn't contain information telling us, who the author is, whatever of those, but you have quite a few different authors. Now, of course, in the Hebrew, it's called a telahim, okay, or a teleim, which is kind of just like songs of praise, okay, songs of praise, that's kind of what that means. So when we think about Psalms, it's like, why are Psalms important? Why are they important for us so many thousands of years later? Okay. Well, so when we think about the importance of these songs, the thing is they allow us, as we said once again, to express, to emote maybe things that are within that need to be out. And so we think of Psalms of lament. They allow us to express the author's cry out to God in difficult circumstances. And so that's one of the reasons I think it's actually important to read the Psalms. So many people are like, oh, you know what, I don't have any emotions. Start reading the Psalms. Start reading the Psalms and see the author. And what I like about the Psalms is that the authors are expressing their emotions, whatever time to God. And they go through kind of the slew. Sometimes they're angry at God. Sometimes they're happy at God. And I'm like, wow, God allowed us to put that in there to see that people were angry at him. But it's so funny because by the time you get to the end, it's like they've gone through this catharsis, right? And they've come throughout the other end. It's like, yeah, I was angry at you, but you know what? I realized that you really are a loving God. Right? People are going to get their up and comings, whatever. So it's my job to just continue to love you and show the love that you've given me, right? So you can actually draw from those Psalms, I'm going to say, the emotion that you're actually feeling. Might you ever get to the point where you just feel like God isn't listening to you? I do. I'm like, what's going on, right? And then I read and I find the Psalm like, hey, this dude gets me. He feels me. Because I start reading, and I'm like, well, yeah, he feels exactly the same way. And then by the time I get to the end of the psalm, I'm like, okay, but it kind of worked out for him, right? And then I get happy. I'm like, wow, what a God to allow that person, if you want to say, to vent. It's just like Job. Job's like, can I just bring my complaint before you? And he does. And then God's like, okay, but just let me just say a few things to you. Like, so where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Can you tell me? Can you tell me that answer? Can you give me that? And so I love it because there's this dialogue that takes place within the Psalms. So if you haven't started reading the Psalms, please take an opportunity to start doing that. When we think about Psalms, we're familiar, of course, with Psalms of praise, right? Also called hymns, and so they portray our direct adoration to God. And I don't know if you've noticed a lot of the songs that we've learned, and it's cool, and I'll even challenge you with the songs that we learn, the new songs. Go through and see if you can identify in the verses which psalm that they're actually putting into the song. Right? Thou, O Lord, art a shield about me. That's actually a psalm, right? And so just think of it. You're singing something thousands of years old, right? Inspired and written. It's still here today and still reflects the communication, the admiration that you can have with God. So Psalms are important because of that. They're Psalms of thanksgiving, right? And so they usually reflect our gratitude. It's so funny because this is such a buzzword now. I don't know if you guys know this, especially in self-help and all these things. Everyone's talking about gratitude, and they're doing research on gratitude, and they're showing how people's minds change and how their lives change when they are grateful, and they have all these exercises on how to be grateful, right? And here you have a book thousands of years old, just tell you, just show some gratitude. Be grateful for the things, for the life that you have, like the song we learned, your breath, your lungs, right? It's your breath in our lungs. How grateful are you for that you can actually breathe today, that there's air. Gratitude, thanksgiving, and Psalms. Psalms are important. And then we have also, if you read the scriptures, there's what's known as pilgrimage Psalms. And you'll notice oftentimes they'll say ascent, whatever, at the beginning, right? And what we know from Jewish literature and stuff, those were usually used during the festivals when the people were actually going up to Jerusalem, whatever, for the Passover, those different type of things. We believe that those were the songs that they sung. And so the Psalms are there. And then there's other types of Psalms. Some are referred to as wisdom Psalms, royal Psalms, messianic Psalms, victory Psalms, law or Torah Psalms, right? And so, of course, you have this collection from all these different areas, so you're going to have the different categories. Now, I want to share a psalm with you. It's Psalm 13. And once again, I love working, with young people because they just have so much potential if we would just let them go. And so I'm going to share with you Psalm 13 as it's sung by a group of teenagers that have put this together. And here we go. And there's the psalm there, so you'll see some of the words there.
Open, you open, you open, you open, you open my eyes, 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 will you forget me forever? You open
Okay, so that's done by teenagers, right? So they have something to contribute also, so let them contribute, right? Give them the space to do what they're created to do. Here's another one, but wasn't written, but this was Psalm number 3, and I love this because this is, I have another one where I do about Absalom, but this is where David is being chased by Absalom, right? And so he pens this psalm here.
Lord, how are they increased that trouble me? Many are they that rise up against me. May there be which say of my soul, there is no help for him in God. But thou, O Lord, art the shield for me, my glory and the lifter up of my head. But thou, O Lord, art the shield for me, my glory and the lifter up of my head. I cried unto the Lord with my voice, and he heard me out of his holy hill. I laid me down and slept. I awake, for the Lord sustained me. But thou, O Lord, art the shield for me, my glory and the lifter up of my head. But thou, O Lord, art the shield for me, my glory and the lifter up of my head. I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people that have set themselves against me round about. I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people that have set themselves against me round about. I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people that have set themselves against me round about. I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people that have set themselves against me round about. But thou, O Lord, art the shield for me, my glory and the lifter up of my head. But thou, O Lord, art the shield for me, my glory and the lifter up of my head.
All right. So notice what you can do with those psalms, right? And so I'm going to give you another challenge. I'm going to challenge you to find a psalm that you like and just create a musical tune for it. And it might be just for you singing it, right? Or with your kids and stuff. Sit down, hey, you know what? We're going to put some music or whatever to a song, and find a psalm that you guys like, and then just put it to music. It can be just for your family, right? And I promise you, years later, they will remember that. Hey, you remember when we made that song to that psalm, right? It could be like a little family tradition, right? And all that is, that's just Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 6, like when you get up in the morning, when you go to bed, the frontlets, outlets, everywhere in your house. That's all that is. All right, I did promise we were going to teach you guys one more song for the song leaders. And so we're going to learn this one, and then we're going to sing it. It's not that, I don't think it's that hard, of course, but we're going to. But I love the words of this song, and so here we go.
I'm not a warrior. I'm too afraid to lose. I feel unqualified for what you're calling me to do. But Lord, with your strength, I've got no excuse. 'Cause broken people are exactly who you use. So give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David. Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. You took a shepherd boy and made him a king, so I'm gonna try in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David, Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. I'm gonna sing and shout and shake the walls, won't stop until I see them fall. Gonna stand up, step out when you call. Jesus, Jesus, I'm gonna sing and shout and shake the walls, won't stop until I see them fall. Gonna stand up, step out when you call. Jesus, give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David, Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. I'll face my giants with confidence.
All right, here comes the bass part, so you can learn the bass part.
I'm not a warrior, I'm too afraid to lose. I feel unqualified for what you're calling me to do. But Lord, with your strength, I've got no excuse. 'Cause broken people are exactly who you use. So give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David, Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. You took a shepherd boy and made him a king, so I'm gonna trust you and give you everything. I'll be a conqueror, 'cause you fight for me. I'll be a champion, claiming your victory. So give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David, Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. I'm gonna sing and shout and shake the walls, won't stop until I see them fall. Gonna stand up, step out when you call. Jesus, Jesus, I'm gonna sing and shout and shake the wall, won't stop until I see him fall. Gonna stand up, step out when you call. Jesus, give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David, Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. I'll face my giants with confidence.
All right, sopranos.
I'm not a warrior, I'm too afraid to lose. I feel unqualified for what you're calling me to do. But Lord, with your strength, I've got no excuse. 'Cause broken people are exactly who you use. So give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David, Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. You took a shepherd boy and made him a king, so I'm gonna trust you and give you everything. I'll be a conqueror, 'cause you fight for me. I'll be a champion, claiming your victory. So give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David, Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. I'm gonna sing and shout and shake the walls, won't stop until I see them fall. Gonna stand up, step out when you call. Jesus, Jesus, I'm gonna sing and shout and shake the walls, won't stop until I see them fall. Gonna stand up, step out when you call. Jesus, give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David, Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. I'll face my giants with confidence. I'm not a warrior, I'm too afraid to lose. I feel unqualified for what you're calling me to do. But Lord, with your strength, I've got no excuse. 'Cause broken people are exactly who you use. So give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David, Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. You took a shepherd boy and made him a king, so I'm gonna trust you and give you everything. I'll be a conqueror, 'cause you fight for me. I'll be a champion, claiming your victory. So give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David, Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. I'm gonna sing and shout and shake the walls, won't stop until I see them fall. Gonna stand up, step out when you call. Jesus, Jesus, I'm gonna sing and shout and shake the walls, won't stop until I see them fall. Gonna stand up, step out when you call. Jesus, give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David, Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. I'll face my giants with confidence.
All right, one more, tenors.
I'm not a warrior, I'm too afraid to lose. I feel unqualified for what you're calling me to do. But Lord, with your strength, I've got no excuse. 'Cause broken people are exactly who you use. So give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David, Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. You took a shepherd boy and made him a king, so I'm gonna trust you and give you everything. I'll be a conqueror, 'cause you fight for me.
I'll be a champion, claiming your victory. So give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David. Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. I'm gonna sing and shout and shake the walls. Won't stop until I see them fall. Gonna stand up, step out when you call. Jesus, Jesus, I'm gonna sing and shout and shake the walls. Won't stop until I see them fall. Gonna stand up, step out when you call. Jesus, give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David. Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. I'll face my giants with confidence.
All right, let's give it a shot. Basic melody, here we go. The words are great. Focus on those words. Do, mi, here we go. I'm not a warrior. I'm too afraid to lose. I feel unqualified for what you're calling me to do. But Lord, with your strength, I got no excuse. 'Cause broken people are exactly who you use. So give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David. Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. You took a shepherd boy and made him a king. So I'm gonna trust you and give you everything. I'll be a conqueror, 'cause you fight for me. I'll be a champion in your victory. So give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David. Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. I'm gonna sing and shout and shake the walls. Won't stop until I see them fall. Gonna stand up, step out when you call. Jesus, Jesus. Gonna sing and shout and shake the walls. Won't stop until I see them fall. Gonna stand up, step out when you call. Jesus, give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David. Lord, be my defense, so I can face my giants with confidence. I'll face my giants with confidence. All right, guys, prepare your heart for worship. Thank you so much.
Coming from